So what you want to feel here is that the arm's in front of you, thumb up, get your thumb to the right like this, pull that down, bend it in front. So this part of your elbow should be about as far towards the target as you can get it. It might feel a little strain in here in the beginning. I'm gonna now add a little bit of pronation. So I'm gonna get my palm pointing towards the ground and to the left as my elbow stays towards me. So this pit of my elbow stays pointed away from me. Do you see that motion there? You're gonna feel a little strain in your shoulder if you're not used to that compared to normal. So when you start to hit some, if you see the arm lengthening, if you see the arm going internal, right? If you see a lot of rotation past impact and you want to get rid of that, have a more stable release pattern, you want arm bent, external with a little bit of pronation. You guys hear me say all the time that you need video feedback. And the newest version of LiveView Golf is absolutely the best form of simultaneous video feedback. And not only is video the best way to give yourself feedback, but being able to see yourself simultaneously as you're doing a movement is the best form of video feedback. It's the best way I've seen to make changes in your swing and be able to correlate the differences between your feels and your reels. LiveView is super easy to set up and use. Simply set it up behind or in front of you. You connect it with your iPad or your phone. You put that right on the ground. I can literally see myself as I'm swinging. It is the best form of practice. I encourage you guys to check out the newest version of LiveView Golf. We'll put a link in the description down below with a coupon code. So let's talk about the right arm during the downswing, dive into some of the details. So a couple things here for us to start with. Number one, in terms of how the right arm works during the downswing, there are 3 basic movements we need to talk about. So don't, stick with me through this. Let's just talk about the details for 1 second. The right arm is gonna bend, right? It's gonna fold up, and then it's gonna straighten, right? So the right arm can bend and straighten. So flexion, extension, that's number one. My right arm can be internally rotated, which is like this, or externally rotated. So think kind of elbow behind me, internal, elbow down, external, that's number 2. And then I have forearm rotation, palm up being supination, palm down, pronation. So we have flexion, extension, we have internal, external, we have supination, pronation. Now why does any of that matter? How does the right arm work during the downswing? How does it affect things? A couple things here. Number one, I would see a correlation amongst ball strikers in terms of the bending and straightening part. The better the ball striker, typically the trail arm or right arm is more bent at and through, or at and to the moment of impact. Typically higher handicap players, the trail arm is much straighter at impact. That's part number one. And so getting the trail arm more bent is something we want to look to do. Now to get the trail arm more bent, there's going to be a big association with where my body is. As my right arm straightens more, my body can be farther away from the ball to pair with that. As my right arm bends more, that requires my body to be closer to the ground. We all know how difficult it is for a lot of us to get the body in the right position. Usually the arms react to that. So we have the bend and the straighten part. When I keep my trail arm more bent, all else equal, that's going to allow me to have my right wrist more bent. That's going to allow me to have the handle forward. When I straighten my right arm, that's also going to make me straighten my right wrist and have no handle forward or shaft lean. More bent right arm, more handle forward, more good. Right arm straighter, less handle forward, bad. The more my right arm is bent, the more that's going to make it my club face want to point to the right or be a little bit open to the target. The more my right arm straightens, the more that closes the club face. That's a key point here. Right arm straightening closes the club face. So if you see yourself during the downswing and your right arm gets too straight too early, you could bet 9 times out of 10, your club face is too open. That's a closing part. The second part we had was internal versus external, this way or this way. The better the golfer, the better the ball striker, the more external, typically, the arm is for the longest period of time. The higher the handicap is more internal sooner. And you can see this from here. If I do this external versus internal, and I bring that down in front of me here, if I have my elbow external, that would mean the elbow points towards my body, pit of my elbow away from me. Internal would be the elbow's now away from my body, right? The elbow points behind me, it's farther away from me. This would be internal. So if you look at a good ball striker, do they look more like this working into the ball? or do they work more like this, right? You can see as soon as I go internal, the elbow goes behind me, my wrist angles want to throw no shaft lean. If I can keep it more external here, that also gives me the ability to get the handle more forward, which we want. So far we know, for writing notes here, if my right arm is more bent and more external, which would be the elbow pointed towards me the longest, that sets me up for the best ball striking. The more my right arm is straighter and internal, that sets me up for the worst amount of ball striking. And then the last piece we have is this supination, pronation. So what I want to have is my arm externally rotated, the elbow towards me. If you kind of hold your arm here out in front of you like this, let's even say you go like this, thumb up towards the sky. If you were to get your thumb pointed to the right or palm up, that's supination. So now my elbow's fully external, the elbow's down towards the ground, and my thumb is pointed to the right. So that's external, supinated. That's the position really that I want to be in my hitting position, right? Now when I get into here though, if I keep that palm pointed that way the whole time, my club face never squares up. I would hit it a mile to the right. And so what I add, this is something I talk a lot with our buddy Dennis Sales, another Cogorno golf coach, about, is the ability to keep this arm external, keep the elbow towards me longer, but add a little bit of pronation. So see, when I do that, if I get my palm towards the target, I'm still keeping this elbow towards me, but I'm adding a little bit of pronation. That's the part that squares the club face up. Like a little wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi. I'm doing a little bit of this. Now I'm not doing this, elbow back, palm down. I'm not going elbow back, palm down. I'm going elbow towards me, elbow towards me, elbow towards me. The arms working across me a little bit, and I'm adding a little bit of pronation. That's the piece that squares it up. So what you want to feel here is that the arms in front of you, thumb up, get your thumb to the right like this, pull that down, bend it in front. So this part of your elbow should be about as far towards the target as you can get it. It might feel a little strain in here in the beginning. I'm going to now add a little bit of pronation. So I'm going to get my palm pointing towards the ground and to the left as my elbow stays towards me. So this pit of my elbow stays pointed away from me. Do you see that motion there? You're going to feel a little strain in your shoulder if you're not used to that compared to normal. So when you start to hit some, if you see the arm lengthening, if you see the arm going internal, right? If you see a lot of rotation past impact and you want to get rid of that, have a more stable release pattern, you want arm bent, external with a little bit of pronation. Arm bent, external with a little bit of pronation. So when I'm hitting, that's the sensation I'm feeling. I'm going here to here, here to here, here to here. None of this here. And I'm keeping that in external really through the hitting into the follow through. So that's what I'm starting with as I'm starting to hit. I'm getting the elbow pointed at my body, not tucked super tight to me, but it's pointed towards me. I'm keeping it pointed towards me as I'm adding a little bit of the pronation as I hit. That allows me to keep the right wrist bent back. That keeps the handle more forward. That's the sort of impact that I'm looking to do. So let's hit a couple with that there. So the elbow, again, feels here. Boom. Bent in front of me, and I'm adding a little bit of this here. So the elbow feels in towards me for longer. So it feels like the elbow stays pointed towards my belly all the way through the hit, and I'm adding the pronation or adding a little bit of twist to get the club face square. Let's go ahead and hit one from there. And what you should see when you do this, especially if you're someone who gets this way too early, is the ball should fly off the face. So it should feel much hotter because the handle's more forward, and it might even launch a little bit lower than normal because you're dynamic loft. So again, elbow towards you, palm goes a little bit this way towards the target. Elbow stays towards you, palm working this way towards the target. And you're feeling that same sensation with the club. Elbow stays pointed at my stomach, and I'm using the pronation and a little bit of the forearm rotation to get the club face back to square. Elbow stays pointed towards me. Good. And those are the pieces I'm looking for. If you watch yourself from face on and you're not able to get the handle forward, right? Of course, if your club face is wildly open earlier, you have to fix that first. Of course, if your setup position's wildly off. Of course, if your downswing's way over the top, right? We have to fix those first. But if you have things reasonably in place and you can't get the handle forward, this bent right arm that is in external rotation, don't care about the top, but at and down and through impact is in external rotation with a little bit more of this pronation move, and keep it in external for about as long as you can. Look at the elbow staying pointed towards me, not pointed away from me. Keep the elbow pointed towards you as long as you can. Use the forearm rotation to square the face. It'll be like an exaggerated Dustin Johnson. And when you do that, you should feel the ball pop off a lot different than normal. So it's a little bit more detail than some of our other ones, but some of you guys want detail. External rotation, a little bit of pronation. I know some of you are gonna have questions, so leave some comments down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. If you like the video, if you wanna support the channel, go ahead and click that like button down below, click the subscribe, leave a comment down. The more of that we do, the more our videos get out to more people. I would really genuinely appreciate if you guys can do that. If you enjoyed this style video, we're gonna put a card on the screen for a similar YouTube video. If you'd wanna work with me, I would love to work with you at CogornoGolf.com. We'll also put that on. Would love to see you there.